Hello, welcome to a new video, and today we're going to take a look at a few Pokemon here, actually I think 16 Pokemon that are already kinda in the game, but also kinda not. We're going to take a look at some forms of Pokemon that you can already kinda invest in. They're going to be eventually in the game, and see on how good they're going to be. So they're going to be some that you maybe want to skip, and some that you maybe want to put your focus on too, and this was quite a bit of work, so if you appreciate those videos, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel. But we're going to move in on this, going to explain also a little bit more on what the video is about. For example, we don't have Rotom fan form yet. This Pokemon usually gets released with GoFest, in-person GoFest to be fair. And so it's very unlikely that we're going to get this Pokemon like outside of this one. But it's also not really a Pokemon that you're going to be too interested in investing in anyway. But yeah, it's a Pokemon that's not released yet, but where a Pokemon that is needing the same type of candies is already released. This is basically, for example, here the case for Rotom. There are different forms of Pokemon, there are different evolutions that maybe are not released yet in Pokemon Go yet. And again, like we're going to see here some different kind of Pokemon that you can invest in by Pokemon that are already in the game. Here, of course, this Rotom is going to take the same candies like the other Rotom that are already released. But as you guys see as well, it's not going to be a Pokemon that anybody wants to play. It's, I think, the worst Rotom out of them all. And so, definitely more something that you want to skip. This is not the same for the next Pokemon, and yes, this is actually a GIF on the top right corner, but this Pokemon just doesn't really move. I don't know on how they're gonna put this Pokemon in, but Zen Mode Darmanitan is real, and Zen Mode Darmanitan has a completely different CP total compared to the normal Darmanitan, and gonna give it way more CP and makes this Pokemon absolutely insane. I really hope that this Pokemon is gonna get into the game eventually, like everything would be prepared for this Pokemon, they just need to kinda enable it. But the question is on how do they enable it. In the main series games, Pokemon activates the Zen mode after going below 50% HP, so we could see maybe a form change again for a certain Darmanitan, that basically what we see currently with Morpeko. And this is going to add the Psychic typing on top of this Pokemon as well, but also gives it better stats and makes it a very strong Pokemon, as you're gonna see there as well. So I feel like it would be actually really balanced if it only starts after you are below half health, because before you have to play with the good old normal Darmanitan, which is not a good one. And so yeah, this would be a cool Pokemon as well when it's gonna get into the game, but it needs the same XL candy as the normal Darmanitan, and so it is going to be definitely something you could even think about already. Same goes for the Galarian version, which is quite a bit different and just doesn't translate as well for Pokemon Go. Basically the version before is very slow, very bulky. This version is very fast, very attack weighted. And while it's cool, it is not going to be overpowered, but it's cool to have an Ice and Fire type Pokemon, so I really hope this Zen Mode Galarian Darmanitan is gonna get into the game eventually. Because, I mean, look at the snowman on the right side, like this would be such a cool Pokemon to have. But yeah, this Pokemon again, going to be very solid, but not too overpowered as well. So I could actually see them actually adding this Pokemon maybe into the game, maybe as like a special encounter that you can buy again through research, because you have to buy everything through research. Would be cool for the Darmanitan there, but as you can see here, we're gonna move on now to the next slide, which is going to be around Kyurem Black. Kyurem Black is going to be released later this month actually, so yeah, it's only gonna be in this video for a little bit because it's gonna be there soon, but like you can already kind of get the candies up for this Pokemon because you need the same as the normal Kyurem. You can actually already build your normal Kyurem if you have like a Hundo or something laying around, because you need this one to fuse it. It's kind of the same as Necrozma fusing with the Solgaleo and Lunala, and this is the exact same kind of thing here as well. It's going to be Kyurem fusing with a Zekrom or Reshiram. What Reshiram or what's called Zekrom you're gonna take, it doesn't really matter, but the Kyurem has to be something that you can already invest in and kind of need good IVs for, because that's what determines the IVs of this Pokemon when you fuse it. As you're gonna see at the current stage, it's an okay Pokemon, but it's actually not the most broken Pokemon. Very good CP stat, but doesn't really have cheap charge moves, which is the issue for PvP. In the code, there's already the signature moves for both this one as well as the Kyurem White. Issue is they don't have stats currently, so we can only assume on how much like energy and damage is going to take there. But from what we've seen, I think actually the energy cost is already in, which is 60, and so it's not going to be a cheap move either. For this Pokemon, it's going to be a little bit more like helpful, I would say, because Kyurem White is going to currently run Ancient Power Blizzard, and Blizzard is taking a little bit too long. Like, this is going to be basically a buffed version of Blizzard, the new move that this Pokemon is gonna get. So it's going to help this Pokemon out quite a bit, and it's going to be definitely an interesting Pokemon for the Open Master League, but I don't think that either of them is going to be particularly overpowered, but definitely still a Pokemon that's going to have a lot of potential, especially if you don't have a resist to the Dragon Breath. Next up is going to be Meloetta. Meloetta got buffed this season as well, even though it's not released yet. It got buffed with Ice Punch as well as Fire Punch, and as you can see, this Pokemon is going to be a very nice alternative to the current version before. Has a bit worse stats, has like a bit different stats, but interesting typing. This is more of an offensive variant, while the other one is a bit more of a defensive tank. So interesting how they're gonna do this. They're most likely just gonna have the form change before the battle, because otherwise the stats plus attacks wouldn't be able to change as freely, basically. In the main CS games, you need a special move on the normal version of Meloetta in order to activate the Pirouette form, which is a Relic Song, but I would see that Niantic most likely just gonna translate it as a change outside of battle. Maybe we're even going to be forced to have Relic Song on both of those versions, but anyway, we want to move on to one of the most busted Pokemon in the main series games, but also if it's gonna ever get released in Pokemon Go. Zacian is completely overpowered. Look at this. Average of 602, 26 wins, 8 losses. I don't know what they're gonna do with this one. Metal Claw being buffed definitely gonna help this Pokemon out quite a bit because it gains the Steel typing, giving it also stab on this move. And of course, we know that this Pokemon is going to have another Pokemon basically coming up with it as well, which is going to be the Zamazenta, getting buffed with Ice Fang this season. And Crunch Toast Combat looks absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, you need a special item to get those Pokemon, so I could see that the current version of Zamazenta and Zacian might actually already work out for you later on. But again, you cannot guarantee this, so maybe they're gonna just release Zamazenta and Zacian with the crown form in the raids or anything like this. So we have to see what Niantic is gonna do, but like those forms going to be busted when they're gonna get into the game. What you can definitely prepare is your Girafarig. Farigiraf is going to be the evolution, allowing you to have basically a Girafarig for the Open Ultra League. It's not going to be the most busted Pokemon, but it's definitely going to be a very solid Pokemon to have, with great move pool there, and maybe we even get the signature move from this Pokemon as well. I think it has one, which I think is like normal type or something like this, I'm not too sure. But you might get a bit of a different moveset, which might be even making this Pokemon a bit better. And so your Girafarig might be already something that you want to keep for this Pokemon as soon as this Pokemon gonna get released. And yeah, definitely going to be a very interesting one there. I could see this Pokemon getting released through a community day. I could see this definitely being one of those Pokemon that gets released through this. Same maybe goes for the next one, which is going to be Dudunsparce. This is going to be the evolution of Dudunsparce. There's a 2 and 3 segment version of this Pokemon. Currently has the exact same moveset as the normal version here as well. But again, you're going to have now all of a sudden a Dudunsparce for the Open Ultra League, which is going to be a very cool addition. Definitely a very strong Pokemon. I do think that this Pokemon would be meta. And so I would definitely recommend you to already keep your Dudunsparce because, again, this Pokemon is going to be very interesting, but also it's very likely going to get its signature move. I think it's Hyper Drill or something, which most likely going to be better than Rock Slide on it, so it's going to very likely get a little bit of a buff before it's going to get released. So yeah, Dudunsparce definitely going to be an interesting Pokemon, and again, you can keep your Dudunsparce already for this Pokemon here. And moving on to Kingambit, we're going to have here again a Pokemon that is already having the pre-evolutions released. So like we have the Pawniard, for example, and you can definitely already get good ones for this one because it's going to be the evolution of the Bishop. And as we see here, this Pokemon gets up to 4086 EP. I'm not too sure when we're ever going to get this Pokemon though, but it's going to be the evolution of a Pokemon that's currently already there. And I can guarantee at this point that you can use the ones that you have already in your inventory. It is going to be somewhat of an evolution. We don't know how the evolution going to function, but this Pokemon is going to be something that you can already try to look into. Like, of course, you don't need to invest in any Stardust yet, but you can already pick like those, Pokemon, the Pawniards that you kind of want to keep for this Pokemon specifically. And now we're going to go into a category that I cannot really tell you too much about. Yeah, sometimes I'm going to look into like those Pokemon a little bit more as well, but for today, I just kind of want to show that these exist because there's so much changing. Every season has something changing. We don't know when those Pokemon are going to come around. But there is currently the Hisuian Basculegion, which you can, I think, still get from certain 7km eggs, I think from Mateo or whatever, which are still available there. But even the normal candies are going to be enough for the Basculegion. Basculegion is usually having a signature move, which is, I think, called Last Respects, which then got kind of given to some other Pokemon as well. But this signature move might be very, very strong for this Pokemon, and we don't actually know on how strong this Pokemon ever gonna be when we're gonna get it released. It's a Ghost and Water type, so the same as Jellicent, just depends on the moveset that this Pokemon gonna get. Currently, we don't know anything other than the Max CP. Same goes for Zoroark. This is a Ghost and Normal type Pokemon. It's unlikely that this Pokemon is going to be very good, not because of the typing. The typing is actually amazing defensively and offensively. The move pool is very likely very good for this Pokemon as well, but I think it's just too squishy to usually hold up, and that's the main issue of this Pokemon. But it's going to be a very cool one when it's going to get released. It's one of my favorite designs in Pokemon, and especially the shiny variant looks really, really epic. Hisuian Goodra is going to be next year. This Pokemon is also the shiny variant on the screen right now, I think. Is going to be, basically an upgrade to Goodra. What you need is, in the main CS games at least, a Gumi for this one. You cannot evolve Gumi because the pre-evolution of Goodra is also in the Hisuian form. And so Goodra is definitely a Pokemon that you want to have, though, because it's basically a cheaper Dialga. Like, this Pokemon has the same typing as Dialga, gaining the Steel typing from the Hisuian form. But you can use it in the Ultra League and in the Great League for great success, most likely. And we see already what the normal Goodra can do. So yeah, this is going to be a straight upgrade to the Goodra, most likely. And so a very good Pokemon to keep. And again, just keep your Gumis, don't evolve them, and see on how we're going to get the Hisuian Goodra in the future. Hisuian Lilligant is going to be next, and this Pokemon is going to be definitely an interesting one here. It's going to be a grass and fighting type Pokemon again. It depends on what kind of moveset this Pokemon gets, because there are quite a lot of different moves that this Pokemon could get. It has some signature moves, and so it depends on what Niantic gonna do with this one. Very likely gonna get released through like a raid day, I would assume, but also still needs the same XL candy and normal candies as the normal Lilligant. But yeah, going to be interesting. This Pokemon is going to be very, very interesting, as it's a normal, as it's a grass and fighting type Pokemon. There are quite a lot of grass and fighting type Pokemon, so maybe it might be even a little bit better than the current ones that we have. And with this, we're going to go to the final one for today, which is going to be Tauros. There is a form with 3 different forms actually of this Pokemon that will be coming eventually to the game. It's a bit difficult to farm candies, of course, for this Pokemon because it's region locked to the US. But Tauros is going to be very interesting because you have a water, a fire, and a just pure fighting form for this. Like, it's a water fighter or a firefighter or just a normal fighter, like just fighting type. So this Pokemon is going to be very interesting there. We don't know exactly what this Pokemon will be able to do, but it has a very solid max CP of 3200. So could see have some success maybe in the Ultra League as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this one here. It took quite a bit to figure out all of those Pokemon. Did I miss one? Could well be the case that I missed one. If I did, feel free to leave it down below in the description, in the comment section, of course. Would really appreciate it. But that's going to be it for today, and I will see you then.